Hello, my little ponies. This is Nightlife again, giving you Chapter 21 of Fall Equestria Project Horizons Waterfall by Somber. Not Somber, not King Somber, just Somber. We don't need no Mr. Sombrero coming in here now. This is a story so nice I do it twice. This is my second take. First time? Yeah, file corruption sucks. Oh well. I shall save you! Show yourselves, you dogs! You curs! Ha! There you are, you mangy mutts! Guess who that was? I give a hint. It's from the show. It actually seemed like the wasteland for once was throwing me a carrot. Ah, I see what you did there. Sure, we lost the whole morning going to Miramar, only to have to teleport back to evade another monster pony. But then we discovered an alternate route, one that might get us past without having to worry about flying death, or at least not worry so much. And I'd have some pony to get drunk with. Yay! Of course, we need spark, magic stuff to make the boat run. Charity! Charity! I cried as I stormed into the post office. The yellow filly didn't bother looking up from the stack of boxes close to her. No time to deal to you, Blackjack. I got to double check this stuff and make sure Tarboots didn't swap me those mines for a few boxes of gravel. She said sourly as a pen, she said sourly around a pen as she scribbled on a notepad. I leapt over the counter in a clear violation of every rule of the Crusaders and seized Charity's shoulders in her forehooves. Charity, I need spark batteries and magic cartridges. Now! Or gemstones. I need them right now, please. Her eyes lit up and she rolled thoughtfully. And with a flip of her head, she spat out her pen and sent it spinning through the air to land neatly behind her ear. Oh, it's a cool trick. Well, adding in processing costs and the getting on my nerves tax, I figured I could sell them for, and we're broke. I added, paying Dipsy and trading for what we needed had sapped most of our caps. I grinned as widely as I could, and tried to ignore the feeling of sweat running down the back of my barding. Her smile disappeared. Get out, she declared imperiously. I swear it's not how you pronounce that word. She flicked the pen from behind her ear, caught it in her mouth, and resumed checking her list. I fell to my knees. Please, Charity, please. Without the boat, we'll have to walk. And if we walk, then what's the point will find us? If she finds us, I'll feel sorry for her before I kill her. And if I do that, then I'll feel guilty. And if I feel guilty, then I'll whine. Please don't make me whine. I begged as several Crusaders peeked over the counter to watch in amazement. What are you? She sputtered and fell on my face as I hugged her hoof. Please, Charity. Please, 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 please. Zzz. I wailed as I kicked my back hooves. All right. She yelled down at me, yanking her hoof free of my embrace as she blushed. I can spare one. My eyes grew large. Two? Tears ran down my cheeks as my lip trembled. Oh, you... She let out a grunt of disgust. Oh, just take the whole box, Blackjack. She walked over to a shelf and pulled out a wooden crate. Tossed it to me. 6 glowing spark batteries rattling within. I just gave a whimper, the wine growing higher and higher. A bottle of wild Texas flopped on top of them. Holy crap, Blackjack. Oh, come on, don't do this to me. My browser froze. Browser. 1 second. Humming in glee and floating a box in front of me, I made my way back to the bridge. The humming faltered not a bit when a few seconds after I got out of the shop, Charity screamed at me after me. "It's going on your tab, Blackjack. You hear me? With interest!" Oh, damn, Blackjack. I swear, she must have been drunk. She must have. Seahorse used to be an equestrian navy patrol boat. Oil can, the rust-coated engineer mare explained to me, as she tried to a hatch in the stern deck, her horn glowing as she undid the dogs and dogs and huh? Undid the dogs. The fuck? And secured a rag in her curly red mane. Doubt there's anything original on it besides the engine, though. I figured the last 20 years or so, we've replaced everything at least once. She hopped nimbly into the air and disappeared down through the hatch. That brings up a fairly interesting philosophical question. If she replaced everything, save the engine, is it really the same boat? And if all the original parts were brought together, save the engine, would there be two of the same boat? Or which one will be the original? The one with the original parts, or the one with the engine? Huh. Interesting mind stuff. She hopped nimbly into the air and disappeared down through the hatch. The rest of the crew were finishing up business with two caravanners from flank who'd come to trade chems and box food for bullets and music recordings brought from Tenpony in Manhattan. Sore as I was at Caprice, I'd gotten some sugar apple bombs and some more buck, just in case I had to wrestle Rampage again. From them in exchange for a few rounds of hunting ammo. A dirty look from them proved quite effective at getting them to shave off a bit of the bill. A dirty look from me, sorry. Come on in, Oilcan said cheerfully. Plenty of room for all. Glory stared into the hole with an audible gulp. I just gave her a friendly nudge on her hip, and a smile that would hopefully convince her not to worry about it. P-21 jumped down happily. Stable ponies had no problem with nice, tight, cramped spaces. Oh my. Ow, my leg. For some reason it's so tense and it's hurting. Need a massage. The engine itself was a block of polished brass inset with rubies and emeralds. It was connected by wires to a sapphire water talisman, twice the size of what we saw in 99's utility room, that was hooked up to several large pipes. This here's the engine. It converts raw magical spark energy into power for a water talisman. That makes the water that jets out the back to move the boat. Arrgh, matey. Sing a shanty, will ya? Is there supposed to be this much water in here? P-21 asked, looking out at the interstow of scummy water that was sloshing about around his hooves. My pit-butt clicked slowly. There wasn't nearly enough radiation to worry me unless I had the engine bilge water unless I had an engine bilge water Slurpee. A Slurpee made of engine bilge water. The motherly mare grinned at him. Well, if you like to motherly. Well, if you'd like to grab a bucket and do something about it, I know we'd be much obliged. She reached into my box and pulled out a spark battery, flipping the heavy square container in her hooves. Inside the crystal hovered a red ball of magical energy that shed little wavering lines of light. She opened a panel with her mouth and pulled out an empty container. Then slid the fresh spark the fresh one, into the receptacle. There was a sudden hum as the gems lit up. Of course, when we don't get spark batteries, we've got a flux converter. She gestured to a circle strung with a spiderweb of glistening crystal shards. Ain't nearly as efficient. And if that doesn't work, well then you can get out and push. We've had to do that a few times. P21 looked at the grease-slathered boards of the exposed inner surface of the hull. I'm just curious why it's made out of wood. You know what happens when you take a nice metal boat out into the ocean? Pretty soon it's a rusty boat on the bottom of the ocean. Sure, lumber might be a bitch to find, but it's a damn sight easier to get and work than in steel plate. We seal her up with tar and pitch as well as we can. Paint her if we can. Paint her if we can get it. Paint the hull if we can manage it. And she's the best damn boat in Equestria. Wasteland, wasteland, wasteland. With an interesting captain, P21 observed dryly. Oil Can chuckled. Yeah, Thrush ain't what most folk expect, but her daddy was 2 buckets shy of a dry hold. Once we were stuck on a beach off Mainzabar with this tainted sea serpent watching us pass the reef. So the captain somehow got a whole flock of rock crabs to carry the boat on their backs to the far side of the island. You know what that is, right? You know what that is? That's a freaking Pirates reference. Pirates of the Caribbean. Fuck yeah. The rusty mare slapped P21's back as she left. Thrush ain't quite the measure of her daddy, but she's the best girl for the job. Old Can said firmly, as she smiled at P21. I had my reservations, but she's a mare who loves Seahorse the most. She was willing to let her daddy go to keep it. The rest of the spark batteries went into a locker above the engine. Seems to me going downstream wouldn't require much power. P21 said. Shows you don't know much about boats, boyo. Oil Can replied. Going downstream, you've got water pushing you into rocks, beams, snags, and worse. Half our power is spent maneuvering around obstacles and the other half fighting the current. Just wait till you see the towers. Any boat who tries to go there with the flow is in for a nasty surprise. The Huffington River eats ponies. With all the rain about, there's a lot of energy in all that water. Convert all of that energy into the magics. Just another thing about this place I hated. I found myself scowling in the direction of the city. It seemed so wrong. Like it was a trap to draw ponies with lures of riches and food. I wondered how many ponies had come to Huffington and ended up killed by raiders, poisoned by taint or radiation, or stuck dry by the enervation fields. The more I thought about it, the more disturbing it became. Even Lacuna's goddess seemed distressed by this place. Huffington, the city that kills. It killed ponies, then it killed when the zebras burned it. It killed zebras as it made itself the target of the war. And now it killed every pony it lured in. I could almost hear the cards shuffling in my head. That face. Hey, are you okay, Blackjack? You've got a shooty look on your face, P21 asked, giving me a nudge. I had a shooty look? I needed a mirror. Just not a fan of Huffington. This is the inception of the shooty look. Okan chuckled and as she rubbed her nose with a dirty hoof. Heh, join the club. I used to live in Friendship City. Nice town. Maybe a touch crowded, but a good place to live, she said as she checked some power cables. One day, her daddy's yachting with the big ones. Her daddy's in port and so damn drunk that the town decided to assign him a guard so he wouldn't blow something up on accident. He mentions that he needs an engineer. I've got a comfy life ahead of me, but he goes around on about the riches, and then he goes on about the riches, the adventure, the sights, the adventure, the rum, the adventure, the sex. Oh yeah, did I mention the adventure? Boyo talked me into and Boyo talked me into bed, and then on this boat, then on his boat. Been in a lot of places, but Hoofington has always been the worst. Always has enough treasure to bring you here. Always has enough grief to make you wonder why it came in the first place. Bilgewater got eaten up by a river certain this trip. I doubt he'll be the last, but the seahorse will be back. I'm sure of that. So why do you stay? P-21 asked. Olcan sighed and smiled, reaching out to touch the engine. There was a lover's look in her eyes. Back home, I had a pretty comfy life. Wasn't no 10 pony, but comfy. Out here, well, we ain't found riches. The sights are pretty damn ugly. The rum's watered down, and the sex gets a little awkward on a little boat like this. But the adventure? He sure wasn't lying about the adventure. About that. As long as the captain can steer us straight, I'll keep her running. To Hoofington or hell itself. Don't you mean Tartarus? I love that about seed-going ponies. You know, this might just be a half and half. Like a two-parter. Because I'm setting myself a hourly limit. Yep. Seahorse wasn't exactly made for a luxury cruise. The 5 of us had 1 room to ourselves, and that had only 4 hammocks. We had to shift the footlockers into the middle of the space and throw some blankets atop them for Lacune. I wonder how 2D pronounces this, her name. We were allowed to be there or sitting on the narrow walk that ran along the sides of the boat between the rails and the superstructure. P-21 pointed out that since I couldn't fly, all my fancy new barding wouldn't be much better than an anchor. Damn it! What was the point of having cool-looking armor if I never got to wear it? I'm sorry, I'm excited. We have pizza and it's coming ready soon, and yeah, Ermagerd Birks. There was a hum in the back of the ship that grew louder and louder. Then 2 steep streams of choppy water blasted out the rear of the boat, just below water level. Tarboots and Oil Canyon untied the lines and jumped nimbly into the rear of the boat, and the swoosh of the water plumes increased. At the stern, on top of the superstructure at the highest point of the boat, was the wheelhouse. For windows, it had rusty slats of metal that Thrush peered through as she moved the seahorse upstream of the bridge before slowly turning the boat around. Immediately, the whoosh died to a gurgle as a powerful current carried us downstream. Wait, downstream going north? The fuck, is this the fucking Nile? Oh well. Ermagerd Birks. Ermagerd Birks. Ermagerd Birks! I had to admit, I am a completely and utter pansy when it comes to flight. But if the whole height thing was taken away, I like the sensation of being carried along without having to walk around. Keep your eyes open, Captain Thrush called out. Captain Thrush called down we sat on the walk, leaning on the metal rail. I kept Taurus's rifle handy as my eyes scanned the scummy water. What am I looking for? Till we get to the fork, anything poking out of the river bottom, or any plane with a missile. Yeah, missile. We might come across some hoppers after the fallen towers, but till then our biggest risk is running into something sharp and pointy. I love how they say that. She said calmly, making only the slightest adjustments to the boat's heading and letting the current do the rest. Are ponies with missiles a common problem? I called back, looking at the increasingly thick ruins lining the river and deliberately not looking at the enigmatic towers to either side on the other side of the boat. This close to the core, I felt odd, lightheaded. I could only assume it was the innovation fields of the city nipping at my cells. Thrush Thrush was keeping the seahorse in the middle of the river, but I felt the urge to ask her to move closer to the rubber-strewn western bank. Smell that pizza. She grunted. Reaper wannabes and raiders mostly. They gather in small groups to prey on Riverside or Flotsam. Until it got something big, we generally don't worry about it too much. She gunned the engine and threaded the seahorse around a spur of concrete just barely below the surface. I spotted it only as we slid past it close enough to spit. Glory provided the most valuable pair of purple eyes, standing in the bow just in front of the turret. She and the crew's lookout, a young green earth pony named Seabiscuit, spotted hazards lying just under the surface that I couldn't even see as we passed. That I couldn't even see as we passed them, and pointed them out with her wingtips so that Thrush could steer around them. As the river carried us along, the ruins became even more larger and more elaborate and damaged. Blocks of apartment buildings had slid right into the water and filled it with deadly debris. Pipes blasted jets of yellowish-brown, filmy water every few hundred feet, and the land drained into the river. A small camp of 4 ponies, raiders from the bloody bites on their limbs. I sighted them carefully. Didn't say anything resembling a missile, and was about to fire when Captain said, "Don't. Gunshots carry on the water." Reluctantly, I lowered the rifle. "I thought you weren't an executioner," the dusty voice said softly. "I'm not an executioner. They were raiders," I muttered to myself, glancing at the dealer, who was looking at the raiders with pity. "They're dying from a disease already. It's going to kill them one way or another." I remembered the mare in Mirror, who had gorged till her stomach burst. It's not an execution if they're already going to die. I flushed in anger as I saw Gore looking back at me. Great. Now every pony was going to know I was losing it. Well, that's convenient," he said, with an understanding little nod. "So long as you're granting mercy, it's okay. Funny, wasn't there another pony using the exact same logic just yesterday?" "Shut up," I hissed softly. "Of course, it wouldn't be the first time you've done it," he continued. "Shut up!" I yelled at the pale bastard, levitating Cupcake's revolver and pressing it to his forehead. "Why the fuck do you do this? I was feeling halfway good, and then you... Why are you trying to make me remember killing them all? Why can't you let me be happy?" My mind had tightened on the trigger. Sure, it wouldn't kill him, but I'd feel better. "Blackjack?" Gloria said in a fearful voice as the dealer melted away. My gun was pointing right between her shocked eyes. Oh, fuck. My magic released the gun at once, and it bounced off the deck and landed in the river with a little splash. Wait, what? Cupcake's revolver is gone? God damn it. I like that gun. Where was I? I stared into Gloria's fearful and hurt eyes and felt myself start to shake. I hadn't had the shakes like this in a while. I thought I was getting over it. I'd pushed it behind me. Ah, crap! Too far. Matured. Moved on. I am a fucking idiot. I hadn't put anything behind me. I'd thrown it into a closet and forgotten about it. I'd murdered 40 foals. Executed them. I'd rationalized. I'd justified. But my mind wasn't letting wasn't letting me let it go. I'm sorry, Glory. I wasn't talking to you. I'm just sorry. I saw the conflict in her eyes as I looked down into the water. She then jumped over me and disappeared below decks. Well, that was interesting, Thrush said from behind the wheel. I don't want to talk about it. She smiled and shook her head. Didn't ask if you did. You don't have to explain to me. I talk to ghosts too sometimes. Not quite what I was dealing with. At least I hope not. You do? Sure. Dad asking me to shoot him. She replied in a soft, casual voice that made me shiver. Looking back, I probably should have. So it's only fair he gets to haunt me from time to time, right? Sometimes all it takes is 1 second, one wrong action, one little mistake, and something precious is gone for good. I'll accept the regrets. P-21 had as much difficulty already. P-21 had as much affinity for sea travel as I did for the air. He lay with his face in a bucket on the stern deck behind the wheelhouse. Really, I didn't mind the rocking at all. It gave me something to think about besides my brain playing nasty tricks on me, and on my mind was playing that. It gave me something to think about besides that my brain was playing nasty tricks on my mind, and I'd almost shot Glory in the face. True, she shot me first, but we were way past that. If I were Blackjack, I would totally say, okay, Glory, if I accidentally shoot you at any point, the first time you can't get mad at me because you shot me in the face when we met, okay? Okay. Not saying I'm going to shoot you. Just saying, if it happens by accident, you can't get mad at me the first time. Okay? Okay. Got something on my toe. My ears flicked as I heard a distant sound, like a deep breath being drawn continuously. Oh. Or like that, but continuous. That's terrifying, holy crap. The stone in my class ring is kind of pinkish, and it used to be blue. The fuck? Oh, the skin underneath it is completely red. Or not like red, but it's like no pigment at all. It's like what's the word? Albino. This ring. Enough about me. It made my mane begin to twitch in apprehension as I looked first at the fire-gutted ruins across the river, and then at the grim walls of the core. What is that? I asked Thrush as I rose to my hooves. Fallen towers, she replied in a soft, grim tone. You ponies better get inside and tie yourselves in. This is gonna be a little rough. Her horn glowed as she lifted a length of rope and started tying herself to the boat. Somehow I sensed a whole river full of understatement in that as I rose as high as I could, looking for the source of that terrible sound. I heard the others getting below, and I couldn't go hide. I had to see just what we were facing. The captain yelled something about breaking the first rule as I staggered forward. Passing the gun turret, I saw Oil Can pulling out the guns. Our eyes met, and I saw the fear in them. This was something bad. I rushed to the front of the boat and ran into Seabiscuit, trying to go in the opposite direction. The sea green mare balked and backed to the bow of the boat as the deck heaved. We were moving fast, really, really fast. The wide river seemed ominously narrow, as if all the rubble and junk had constricted into a foamy flume. The boat gave one more lurch, and the mare gave up trying to move back instead, and began to frantically tie herself to the rusty metal rings set in the deck. "Tie yourself down!" she yelled, but I wasn't really listening at that point. My eyes started out in front of me as I felt a sensation like taking a cold bath wash over me. Like everything else in Hoofington, I suspected that the massive core towers rising into the rolling clouds were ridiculously over-engineered. However, despite that, during the war's fiery end, one of the towers had broken. I had broken off 10 stories or so up, and fallen across the river. The heavy, armored face had fallen of the fallen tower acted as a dam of sorts, and the tower's fall had shattered and knocked down a half dozen more buildings that were now also lying in the swirling flurry of frothing water. The water had poured over the jagged stumps of the fallen foundations like saliva over teeth. The river was hungry. Oh shit. "How in the hell are we supposed to get through that?" I shouted. Then I stared as the boat flew between a pair of streetlights. We weren't going down the river anymore. This was a street. The impromptu dam had driven the river out of its banks, and now that we were navigating racing currents running through the ruins of the shattered office buildings. I would pay to see a boat just go running down fucking Flood Street. That would be fucking awesome. Oh wait, no, that's not a good joke. "I'm gonna get you, Dirty Dan." Broken foundations and rusted streetlights flew past us as the water flew forwards faster and faster towards the source of the perpetual inhalation. "Tie yourself down!" Seabiscuit screamed again as she grabbed a second length of rope, knotted it around my chest, and tied it to another ring. "Captain will get us through!" she yelled, the green mare staring back at Thrush with a look of frantic faith. The captain just stared grimly ahead. Bollocks. Oh, bucka. Then I saw exactly where she was taking us. The tower had not fallen completely intact. A split had opened up in its side, inside it, where the top third had snapped like a peppermint candy stick, and created a yawning chasm that the river was forced into. However, I didn't see a way through, only endless black. The seahorse seemed to hang, suspended on that eerily smooth rolling tongue of water that poured down endlessly into the gullet of the fallen skyscraper. This cannot possibly have enough description to it. I just can't wrap my head around this next thing. But then I've read up until chapter 40, where Rainbow Dash gets reincarnated. I'm not going to say how. And then, with the blast of cold, wet mist, we plunged into the darkness. I gripped the rail with my hooves and plummeted into the hollow interior of the skyscraper. Then, just as we'd fallen down, the water rose into a vertical wall again. This time we were going up. The seahorse rode the arching wall of water as it poured along the interior of the building like an enormous pipe. In my mutated sight, I could see the rusted steel beams stabbing at the seahorse like spears. Something banged against the underside of the ship, and I felt the entire vessel jump as we raced wildly down the interior of the building. Cracks in the wall sprayed cold, foul water in my face. I had no idea how any pony could navigate this passage. Thrush is a damn savant. That's how. Then I spied light ahead, and with it the sight of another wall of water turning sideways. How could a vertical wall of water move sideways? "Hang on!" Seabiscuit screamed in my ear. I wrapped my hoof around the railing as we approached the surging well of fluid. Surging sweep of fluid. For a terrifying moment, I swore we flew. My stomach rose in my throat as we were ejected from a second split in the side of the tower, and right at the face of a fallen apartment building. The water rose up and up and up, and we rose with it. Dude, it's a fucking inverted waterfall. Higher and higher, and the boat rose as I stared down towards the stern. I wasn't sure if I was simply soaked through, or if I was wet, or if I wet myself from the sight. Oh, peeing, not good. Then our rise stopped, but Seabiscuits did not. She continued going up and up, connected only by the rope tied to the ring. The rope went taut. Then, with a metallic ping, the metal snapped. Her teal eyes widened in horrific resignation as she started to plunge back down towards the churning water as the boat hung in the air. I screamed as I set my hooves and launched myself in the air, my legs flailing. Save one. Just save one. That is a beautiful thought to have. Her trailing rope smacked me in the face, and I gripped it with my hooves. Teeth, magic, whatever. My rope went taut as well, and the ring held as we swung back and crashed into the deck of the Seahorse. My teeth rattled as I hit the rail and hooked a rear leg around it. She tangled with the turret. I wondered if we would hang on that forever. A small tilt in the wrong direction, backwards, towards the surging torrent spraying from the tower. Then the boat fell. With horrifying, ponderous slowness, it tilted away from the crumbling apartment face, and I was looking down at the swirling froth of brown water. There was nothing I could do but clutch that rail with every bit of strength I could. Every inch of me was slammed with more force than I ever thought possible as the boat fell upside down. My breath blasted from my body in a bubbly scream as I felt the rope was about to cut me in two. Then I was lifted from the water as the Seahorse reverse capsized, coming to the surface dripping wet and pointing her nose downstream. I opened my eyes, looking for the sea green pony and staring at the rope trailing in the water. The rope burn had torn 2 raw strips of flesh from around my forehooves. Just one. Please, let me save just one. Oh, fuck. Sorry, I read ahead. I followed a buck to my mouth and chewed down as the Seahorse raced towards a jagged strand of crushed buildings and debris. My heart thudded as I heaved with all my strength. I could barely breathe as I looped the rope around my foreleg, pulled, and looped again. I clenched my eyes shut, imagining the beam of concrete ripping her apart. It felt as if one of those jagged spurs had lodged straight to my chest as I pulled again and again. And then a limp green form came over the rail and fell atop me. Water dribbled from her mouth as she lay there. Just one, I whispered softly as I rolled upright and pressed down on her sides, trying to force the water out. Thorn, roses, tumbleweed, scoodle, 11 zebra, 40 foals. Let me save just one. She lay there, another corpse, my heart racing so fast that I collapsed beside her. Thorn, roses, tumbleweed, scoodle, zebras, foals, Seabiscuit. Then she coughed, gasped, retched, and vomited water. I shook as I fought to sit up, trying to do something helpful and managed to just blubber and hold her shoulders as tar boots walked carefully along the heaving deck, rushing to help. She drew one shaking breath after another, and I fell on my back, gasping for breath as with the blood-soaked rope tied around my hooves. Everything fell away as I smiled. I saved one, you bony son of a bitch. I saved one. I feel so good right now. So good. So much. So many feels. So much awesomeness. Damn, Blackjack, you are awesome. Congrats, Blackjack. You saved one. Wake up, fishy. Fishy? My mom called over my bed. I know you're awake, Go Fish. You're smiling. I'm not. Sleeping. And I snored loudly to prove it. She bumped me with her nose. Security mares have to wake up and do our jobs, Fishy. I don't want to be security, Mama. It's no fun, I muttered, looking up at my pink mama with her smart, indulgent smile and striped purple and red mane. Security's the best job in the stable, she said softly. Every pony says that about their jobs, I said as I rubbed my eyes and yawned. She just chuckled. But ours really is. We get to save ponies. She saves one. She saved the pony. Pony should, pony, pony. Pony should, pony, pony. Why do we gotta be so mean to the boys, Mama? I asked as my eyes looked over at two bucks walking with their heads hanging, following two mares. They looked hurt, and something else. I didn't know what shame was back then. She smiled sadly as I got a green alfalfa smoothie from the cafeteria, munching on the sweet, grassy sludge. We don't, but a lot of mares can be mean, so a lot of mares are mean to ponies they think is okay to hurt. But why? They're not in my classes or nothing. What did the colts do? I asked as I ignored the spoon and straw and chowed down. They do something very important for the stable. They make babies. I imagined something like a factory where little fillies were assembled like dolls. They do? Mm-hmm. One of them made you, she said with a smile. Not sure which one, but she flushed slightly as she said that to herself more than me. But what do they do? But what did they do? I asked with a little frown. Well, in your grandma's time, the colts and fillies shared all kinds of jobs. All except for one, the overmare. Every pony got one baby to take over their jobs when they died, whether they were bucks or mares. Then, one day, the overmare had a baby colt. The males were happy because there were a lot more mares than bucks. Anyway, they thought the rules weren't fair. I grumbled. I don't think the rules are fair either. It's so stupid I gotta go to bed when I'm not even tired. If you did, maybe you wouldn't have problems waking up, she said as she rotated a napkin to wipe my face clean. Anyway, the overmare said that the colt couldn't be an overmare because he wasn't the mare. Buck said the overmare was breaking the rules because she couldn't have another baby. Then her foal died in medical. The buck said the overmare had killed him to have another baby, and demanded that she be replaced. But there's nothing in the rules for taking away an overmare's job. I gasped and squirmed, trying to get away from her floating napkin. And did she, Mama? She just smiled sadly and shrugged. The bucks thought she did, and they were angry. They took over the overmare, the maintenance level, and threatened to do something very bad if the overmare didn't step down. The bucks had a lot of mares wanting to help them before, but breaking the air purification talismans would have killed every pony. There was a nasty fight, and several important parts of the stable were damaged. Finally, most of the bucks were captured, and the overmare said that from then on, mares would run the stable, and bucks would make babies. I munched my green smoothie, making a mess on my face again. Huh? I wonder why I never see any colts in school. Well, except for this one. He's always hiding near the door. Or he was. I said as I tapped my hooves against the table. I haven't seen him since I took him to medical. She gave me a sad smile. Such a sad smile. Try not to think about it, Fishy. Because once you started, you wouldn't stop. Not till it drove you mad. And with that, I think I'm going to stop it right here. It's about 45 minutes long, and I might need to give my voice a rest. Looks like this is going to be a bit of a four-parter. Oh well. I'll get the next part up tomorrow if I can. I'll try not to make y'all wait too long. This is a good stopping point anyway. Stopping point anyway. Good night, everybody. This has been Nightlife, bringing you part 1 of chapter 21 of Fall Equestria Project Horizons Waterfall. Nightlife out.